Three, two, one, let's go. 401 Sports World Show. Today is September 10th, 2025. Brooks the showcase is in the house. The original hot tub, Tony, is in the house. And I'm Mr. 411. Man, tonight's topic, Asian illegal immigration in the US, the other side of immigration. So we're gonna dive into this topic here. Have the panel of experts here. We're going to dive into it. So we're not going to waste a lot of time. We're going to jump right into this thing. Tub, you can kick it off, and you and Brooks can go back and forth. Here we go.
So with the recent bust down in Elabelle, Georgia, at the Hyundai plant, the topic of illegal immigration starting to hit home here in Georgia. With that, I think we should take a deep dive into what our immigration status is as far as the Asian illegal immigrants. That's one demographic that never gets talked about in this conversation, but we probably should here, especially here in the state of Georgia. So by the 2020 census, there were about 565,000 Asian immigrants in the state of Georgia. Now, that's roughly right around 5% of the population here in the state of Georgia. That's up from what it was in 2010, which was at 3.1, where it was hovering around 330,000, and up from 2000 census when it was 179,000 Asian immigrants here in the state of Georgia. Now that breaks down into 150,000 Indians, 150,000 Koreans, roughly. They say it's between 200 and 150,000 on the Indians, 75,000 Chinese, 45,000 Filipinos, 52,000 Vietnamese. Now, according to the AAPI website, that's the Asian and American Pacific Islander website, 1 in every 7 illegal aliens are Asians. Yes, yeah, that's the breakdown. So that's roughly 82,000 unaccounted for illegal aliens here in the state of Georgia. Why does that matter? It matters because they're concentrated in 3 cities mainly: Duluth, Georgia, Gwinnett County, and Forsyth, Georgia. And it doesn't seem like, well, that's not a big deal. It is a big deal when you look at 500,000 people in 3 cities. That's a major demographics shift. Why is that important to the context of what happened down at the Hyundai plant? I'm glad y'all asked that. Elabelle, Georgia has a population of roughly 8,000 people. The Hyundai plant was expected to bring in 8,000 jobs. Now, there's 8,000 people down there in Elabelle, Georgia. Their unemployment rate hovers around about 2%, which is not bad. But it would be a benefit that the city itself cannot fill all those jobs. You got the plant that has job openings for roughly the same as your population. That's not accounting for all the side businesses and associated businesses that'll come out of building that plant that size in that area. So it would benefit everything from Claxton, Georgia, all the way over there to Savannah, and as far down as Hinesville. So that would be a huge boom for the population in Savannah, in the Savannah area. Well, when you talk about bringing in 500 people, 500 undocumented individuals in the city of Elabelle, Georgia, that's noticeable, especially an Asian population that does not look like the demographics of the city. That's a noticeable population. That would have raised red flags with the city, the state, and local law enforcement. It should have, but nobody raised about it. Don't have that kind of population come in that large of a number all of a sudden without state help. Now, the United States has a really good relationship with the South Korean government. We have bases over there. They do a lot of business here in the United States. So it'd be very easy for them to come in and say, hey, we need work visas for 500 individuals. United States wouldn't deny that for the South Korean government. These individuals were brought in by a Korean subcontractor hired to do work on the plant. And they brought, instead of hiring the local population, they hired undocumented people, brought them in from Korea to work at a cheaper price. That's what it boils down to. And when you look at that and this major inroads that the Korean government has made into the state of Georgia, the Korean population, Georgia has one of the highest Korean populations in the United States. And it's not just Georgia. The same demographic is moving into Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and even as far as Mississippi. And it's always that 150. I gave y'all the numbers of the population in particular. Those are the the Korean population in the United States for a reason. Because when you look at those states, you're starting to see that 150,000 number across multiple states. You don't have populations that large moving into your states at those large of a numbers, and it's the exact number by state by state by state. That's coordinated. The South Korean government, and as you see on the graphic, South Korean government has invested a lot of money into the state of Georgia. You got the Hyundai plant, you got the Kia plant up here in West Georgia, and they had some issues of their own, maybe about 7 or 8 years back, where they had the same problem, but with Hispanics. They had a lot of Hispanic workers, and immigration came in and took a lot of them. That was years ago. So you're seeing a pattern here, and the South Korean government invested a lot of money into the state of Georgia. They just had a huge Asian summit here in Gwinnett County earlier this year, where they were talking about how they're going to make the Asian community is going to make Georgia their stops. Now, they've been for decades centrally located in two places: California, New York. They expanded out to Washington State and Texas in fairly sizable numbers, but never down south. Now we're seeing an explosion within the past 4 years. And you know what happened 4 years ago? We're looking at post-COVID. We're looking at open borders under the Biden administration. And we had an explosion in areas that you would not see such a demographic shift. You don't see an Asian population because they're not an anchor population for them to come in and latch on to. When we speak about the Atlanta area, our Asian population was relegated to Buford Highway. That had been the Asian stronghold for years, and it literally broke down by ethnicity and nationality. You had Koreans, Chinese, Vietnamese, Filipinos, and you go down Buford Highway, they used to call that the United Nations Road, because you had Africa, you had every nationality on Buford Highway. Now they've expanded out to areas that we've never had an Asian population. And I say all this to break down that this is by design. Now, why does that concern me, and why should that concern any citizen of Georgia? Well, because when you look at the Hyundai plant down there in Elabelle, Georgia, you displaced a sizable workforce with your own people. And we don't know the extent of it. We still don't know the extent of it. We know they have 500 Koreans, but we don't know if you got illegal Hispanics getting ready to work down there. So illegal immigration hurts local employment, especially within like small towns, where that number that hurts the local population. You have an unemployment rate down in Savannah that hovers around about 3.1%. Not extremely high. It's right there with the state average and well below the national average. But those are jobs that American citizens can do, that have done. We don't need we don't need outside training on a lot of the positions that that those illegal immigrants were occupying. So I wanted to come in here and put all that in context before Brooks and I go in on the topic itself. And from now, I open it up to you, Brooks. You got what you got for it?
I mean, my first thing. I mean, my first response. Um, I mean, we all know part of Trump's agenda is to bring manufacturing jobs, back to the U.S. That's big. Well, he loves tariffs so much. He thinks, um, you know, he wants, you know, companies based in the U.S. to manufacture in the U.S. My only question and only the thing I see that may be flawed about this approach is, do Americans want to do these jobs? Do and I'm talking about quantity wise. Do we have enough Americans willing to do these type of blue collar jobs? I think we're in, and this is part of, this goes back to issues in education. I think we're taught now we need 4-year degrees to get jobs. These technical jobs, right? These blue collar jobs don't necessarily require degrees. But I think, we've imprinted on our young people that they need to go to college, which I don't think is necessarily true. I mean, some people aren't meant for 4-year degrees. Some people are not meant for that path. A lot of my family does construction. I did construction on and off with them. Um, yeah, I think that's a question, and I don't know if I have the answer to it. Is there enough Americans willing, if manufacturing comes back here, to do those jobs? I think that's uh, the one big question I have. And you make good points about, you know, if they're, about if they are taking our job, if, these illegal immigrants are, in some cases, probably are hindering, um, Americans from getting getting these positions. And I get that. That's part of the issue. But I'm just talking big picture here. I mean, are there enough Americans willing to do these types of manufacturing jobs, these blue collar jobs that Trump wants to bring back to the U.S.?
I dare say yes. As we've seen, we've tried the college route, and as we're coming to realize the price of colleges has increased. The pay the pay from that college degree has not kept pace with the cost of college, making college
Sure.
basically we reached the point where you needed college, but not to the point to run yourself in hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt for a job that, to be honest, pays $50,000 to $60,000 a year.
Right.
I No, I you don't need college. So you start to see that shift from stepping away from college with over the last 2 years. Um, Post COVID, everything that was saying, "Oh, you need a college degree, you need a college degree, you need a college degree," and let the illegals have the blue collar roles. Now you're starting to see that shift. No, they're not occupying jobs that American citizens don't want to do. We've traditionally done manufacturing jobs, especially in automotive. Um,
Hmm.
Cities like Detroit, Flint, Michigan, they were built off the automotive industry. So
Sure.
you look at populations of people that we know the automotive industry. It was taken away because of NAFTA in the 90s under the Clinton administration. That's why we lost a lot of those jobs in Detroit and in that Midwest sector, Gary, Indiana, places
Right.
where cars were made. And I say auto manufacturer, putting it in context of the Hyundai plant, an auto manufacturer has always paid good. With the Kia plant, those guys are making, some of those guys, a lot of those guys are making upwards of $40 to $50 an hour in the South, where wages, where the median income is $40,000 to $50,000 a year.
Right.
That is an extremely that's an extremely good job for these areas. But when you try to come in and say, when you have people that come in and say, "Oh, Americans don't want that job," well, who did you talk to? What Americans are saying that they don't want $30 to $50 an hour job where you're home,
Yeah.
where you home prices at the time, all the way up until the last couple of years, was $150,000. Now that number has increased as the housing market has gone up, but those jobs still pay extremely well. Construction. You said you were in construction yourself. Construction jobs are jobs that we've normally held, and when we stepped out, and when I say we, I mean American citizens. When American citizens stepped out of those roles or were forced out in a lot of cases, you start to also see in the home building and the home building side of construction, the quality of homes go down. Ask any home inspector to point out the problems in new builds, and there are many. Um, I know guys that do home inspections, that they're home inspectors. They do the home inspection for new builds. They tell me all the time these houses are built like trash. Well, building standards in certain countries are not the same as they are in the United States. So it stands to reason. Yet, yes, they know the job. These people that you're bringing in for cheaper wages, they may know how to build houses, but do they know how to build houses and structures and skyscrapers to American standards? And overwhelmingly, what we're seeing lately within the past 20 years is no, they don't. The builders are not holding them to those standards. And if you don't have a good home inspector to come in, an independent home inspector to come in and inspect your home, and you let the builder use their own home inspectors, oh, they're going to overlook a lot of problems that you're going to find out about 5 to 10 years down the road. So that's just one way. Now, if you want to relegate it to farm work, then maybe you would have an argument for Americans not wanting to do those jobs. But man, we talk about blue collar jobs that traditionally have paid well historically. Oh, we will do them. I dare say there is no job that an American worker will not do, especially a black American. We'll do anything if the pay is right. And that's the key. That is the sticking point, is that these companies don't want to pay what these jobs are worth.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely like there's a lot of facets to this conversation, and definitely pay is one of them. Those type of jobs, you know, they hurt your body. It's a very different job than sitting behind a desk all day on a computer. You're putting your body on the line every time you go to work. So those jobs got to be worth the money. So for sure that's a good point. And again, this is just me. When you think about the aspect of mass deportation, you know, you know, implying, and Trump's come into office and he's put it, he's really upped his, I don't think he's not even, I don't think he's at the pace Obama is, but that's part of his agenda. And I'm just worried at the speed at which you deport. Is the American job market going to catch up? And I understand there's probably, I hope there is a shift to technical schools and this technical work, and outside of a you know not getting a 4-year degree, maybe doing an internship of sorts instead. And I mean, I hope there's a shift. I'm just wondering, can it catch up? Considering the rate at which Trump is deporting, and all, he's got ICE agents, he's got a bunch of other agencies helping out in this too. He's got all hands on deck. There's a big recruitment to be an ICE agent right now. I mean, there's just I'm just talking about, can that I just worry that that gap is going to leave that gap. And I'm just worried, can Americans catch up? Can it fill it as fast as the deportations are happening?
I'd say yes.
I'd say no.
We've seen this again. We saw this under
I would
Obama.
say no. I would absolutely say no, and I love you, Tony, but I don't know how much of a. I know you have a feel from where you are, in some of the places that you get, the pulse that I get here, and the people that I deal with. These young folks don't want to work, man. These jokers do not want to do any kind of physically demanding job. I don't care how much they pay, and I don't care how. And I'll tell y'all this: I work at UPS. I don't like to go and throw out where I work at a law, you know what I'm saying? Because that don't define who me as a man. I have people that will come to this job making at a part-time rate in Columbus, Georgia, 21 to $25 an hour, working 4, 5 hours a day, doing some, it's some physically demanding work for but a short period of time. You get a pension, you get full benefits after 30 days. You get a pension as a part-timer. You get full benefits as a part-timer. I'm not even getting into the full-time aspect of it, but this is, you know what I'm saying? And we have people that walk away from this shit like it's I mean, like there's something else out there. And I'm just telling you that again, now you live in a place where, I can say Atlanta has a whole different, that area up there, and especially when you live in larger cities, the prospect and the ability to be able to, just hustle. You know what I'm saying? Just short of calling it what it is, you can get out and hustle, and you can find some things to get. But we have jokers, like I say, man. I mean, and I'm telling you, I've done this for 30 years. I've done this for 30 years. And I sit out here and I watch these jokers and they do not want to work. Now, again, I don't think that's just relegated to this city, but this generation, these younger cats, they don't want to work, man.
I,
It's
I
not the
I
same.
I disagree with you, and the reason I disagree with you is that we there's a tendency for older generations to say, "Oh, the young cats don't want to work." No, they figured out this. They figured out, a lot of them have figured out way to make money on the internet without working hard. You got cats on
Yes.
I hear on YouTube that making six
Yeah.
figures comfortably on YouTube, and when their parents told them when they started out, "Hey, you ain't gonna make no, you need to go up." So I don't knock those who figure out a way, but I'm talking
Mhm.
historical. One thing I do know, especially in that Savannah area, because I lived in Savannah for 4 years, them cats work. One of the major industries down there in Savannah is the dock. That's the
That dog. Yeah.
longshoremen
Yeah.
have sure that Savannah, even when the unemployment rate in Georgia spikes, Savannah does not have the same issues that the rest of Georgia has because everything around that dock pays extremely well. Longshore, my date chick back in when I was in the military years ago, her father was a longshoreman. He also had a massive drug problem, but that's neither here nor there. But
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
1997, 1998, this guy was making $75,000 a year in
That's
the
crazy money.
crazy money. So I can only imagine
Yeah.
what they're paying right now. So
Yeah.
when you talk about the car manufacturing industry, one way that the state of Georgia and Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, where you see a lot of car plant manufacturing plants are, the reason they were able to attract those major car industries down here was that we don't have a union down here. With us not having
Yes.
down here,
Georgia is a right to work state. Yes. That
right?
that is one of the biggest things that you get with a lot of yeah, like you say, a lot of industry that wants to be non-union, that Georgia is a right to work state. So that was one of those things where you had a large like you said, when they started coming south, that Georgia was one of the places that they wanted to get to because it was a right to work state, and so
But one of those trade-offs with bringing those down here was that they had to pay, uh, I want to say, 2 times the average wage of the state. So all of our car manufacturing plants here in Georgia pay well for the South. Now they may not
yeah,
pay the guys up in the Midwest were making. I was hearing,
mhm.
upwards of $75 an hour to push a broom at times. That was negotiated by the union. With us not having that $50 an hour for certain positions, it's extremely well for the South.
Oh yeah,
So I don't know any young past. You talking about jobs that equate to $70,000-$80,000 a year in South
Yeah,
Georgia.
I mean,
in
yeah,
South
I mean, and
in
but
Southeast.
but
That's that's that's
okay.
that's huge for Southeast Georgia. When you talk
And
about,
but you know what? And I'm being again. I want to catch up, but being honest, like, dude, we have just talking to some of the people like Unadilla. You know, what I'm saying, like how small of a place it is, but we got a center down there. And start put, dude. I mean, like they have issues. I mean, like they have problems getting people hired. And I'm being honest, like I say, Unadilla, Georgia. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, Eric, you can't tell me that there's nothing going on in Unadilla that would stop you from trying to work at UPS. I mean, and I'm just being honest. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the aspect of it and the part of it that I know about that they don't have. You know, we've had to send drivers from Columbus down there, you know what I'm saying, to cover to cover like the routes and stuff, simply because they just don't have enough people that want to go there and try to get a job. And again, I know all I can talk about is the things that I know about. But to me, that, like I said, that just seems
Brandon,
crazy. Yeah, it
yeah,
just seems crazy.
come back. Hey, Brandon, come back closer. Come back closer to wherever you were.
yeah, you digitizing, bro.
My bad. Hold on. Where did I sit my headphone?
But
Hold up. That was my
but that's what I'm gonna tell you outright. You talking to certain, I disagree with you on some fact. I live in Covington, Georgia, bro. That's a suburb way on the east side of Atlanta. I'm talking way on the east side. I drive an hour to downtown Atlanta to go to work. So don't tell me that people are not willing to work. If I'm willing to drive an hour, everybody in my neighborhood, an all black neighborhood, fairly nice neighborhood, everybody here transports to Atlanta or to Decatur or one of these surrounding cities outside of the city of Covington to work because we're looking for those uh, good paying jobs and they're not in this area. If they were to open my son, he works for Facebook. Facebook opened up a medical center here. That is that has overnight become one of the biggest employers in this area. One of the problems with this, with Facebook coming here, is that the majority of they didn't pull from the local workforce here. The majority of their workforce is Indian and Asian.
And now, what kind of now? And when you say Indian Nation, is it more on on the phones, or is it outsourced, or is
They
it
outsource.
physically? Are
This is
they
not.
physically there?
It's a data center, meaning like a large server farm.
Okay.
But instead of working with, you just built East Side High School out here. One of the state of the high school looks like a college campus. Instead of working with the high school, instead of working with Georgia Piedmont Technical College here to bring the local population up to speed to fill those jobs because they spent 3.5 years building the plant. That was more than enough time to go engage the state of Georgia, engage the Department of Labor, and say, "Hey, we need a workforce that does X, Y, and Z." And as we see with a lot of the tech industry has gone to the model of we don't need a college graduate. We have training program. Google has a training program. Facebook has a training program. Uh, Twitter, X, formerly Twitter, they have their own training program where they say
Mhm.
we could train you to do cybersecurity. We could train you to do different aspects of the tech industry without the need for college. That's how many jobs that they're estimating to be coming available within the next 10 years. They need people now. So you could have done that with the local population. Instead, they brought in the influx of the Asian community here because I've been in Covington 12 years. We never had an Asian population. We had a very small Asian population. And I say very small, I mean very small, less than 1%. To now, it's just like Elabelle, Georgia. We're upwards of 3 to 5% of our population now between Covington and Social Circle is Asian. Where did they come from? And most of them work right there at Facebook.
Now, do we know, like, how do we know how many, like, what's the process there? And Brooks, I mean, both of y'all can help out with this, but what is the process of this? Because it's like I'm looking at some of the stats here. Asian Americans are the only major racial or ethnic group in the U.S. that is majority immigrant. Some 54% of 24 million Asian Americans are living in the U.S. are immigrants. Among Asian adults, that share rises to 67%.
What that
So what's
basically what they're basically saying that there's no anchor population to say, hey, well, we had homegrown Asians here in this area. Now, don't get me wrong, there are populations of Asians that have been in the South uh, for decades, but those are mainly in Louisiana. What you're seeing now, this influx of Asians all around the country that you're seeing now, that's recent. It's same as most immigration. That's been when they lifted the immigration, when they relaxed the immigration laws in the 1980s. That's when you start to see this influx. The Asian influx is a very recent phenomenon since when Biden came into office and he made illegal immigration basically pseudo legal. You start to see an influx of the Asian community in there, into places that they're not normally in. Now, California has always had a program with nursing where they take the nursing degrees from the Philippines. So when you look at nursing in California, most of those nurses are Filipinos. Why? Because in the Philippines, and I know this for a fact, everything I'm telling y'all can be verified. But in the Philippines, they don't go to college for nursing. Their nursing program starts when that student hits the 8th grade. So when they graduate in high school, they're graduating with a nursing certificate. It's not even a degree. State of California said that's good enough for us. Bring them over here. Well, you had at that time when you started that push, and that push started around 1997. Well, at the same time, you had a high black unemployment rate. You could have easily done the same thing I just suggested. Engage your local Department of Labor to go and get some of these unemployed black people to see who wants to go into the nursing program and do an accelerated nursing program for them, which is essentially what the Philippines does. They don't require a degree. So why are you requiring a degree for American citizens, but you're bringing in a population who are largely unqualified?
Well, who's responsible for this?
The federal government, the state government of California, because both of them work hand in hand to allow this.
Mm.
Illegal immigration is these people are not just coming here; they're allowed to come here. And though it seems chaotic, and I think they did lose control of it during the last 4 years, but they've allowed a lot of people in here when they want to fill certain sectors. But unfortunately, this is the part that gets me. Illegal immigration hurts the black community directly because, as we see, our unemployment rate tends to tick higher than the average unemployment rate for the nation and by state. But that's by design. If you're bringing in one of the things that you have down in Middle Georgia, around by Perry, you got a Tyson's chicken plant. Now, all the way up until the 1980s, those jobs were done by black people. Then all of a sudden, once you had the influx of largely illegal immigrants into the state of Georgia, which happened in the mid 2000s, those jobs that black people held at those chicken plants went to illegal immigrants, mostly Hispanic illegal immigrants. So when I hear Antoine, and this ain't no knock to you, Antoine, because that's what I'm not discrediting what you're saying. That may be the reality in your area, but you dealing with somebody. I deal with numbers and facts.
So
I
how
look.
to?
Mhm.
Uh, I just want to let you know, Antoine. He's going to comment in the on the YouTube. He jumped in on the live line, but then he had to jump back out. And
Ah,
so if you see him, you're going to see him through the comments. Right now, you got me and Brooks.
okay. I'm gonna put the comments up,
Yeah.
but yeah. So when you see, that may be the reality in Columbus. I'm not discrediting that. But that's not the reality of all the state of Georgia. And there's an aspect of and I don't want to take up too much time, so I hold off what I'm getting ready to go into, Because Brooks, you got what's your take on that?
No, I mean, you, you make great points. I mean, as far as I mean, it's capitalism, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's capitalism, right? Companies are going to hire if they can hire for cheaper. They're going to, and
yeah,
that's got. I mean, and Trump, he's focusing on the deportations right now. He's focusing on getting the plants built here. But there's another aspect to it, like you're mentioning. You you still gotta find a way to make those jobs available, you know, to the people, to the American people. So you make those are good points, and that's just how complex, this thing is as far as illegal immigration. It's embedded in our society, right? Illegal immigrants, you know, they work hard and they work for cheaper, and that's embedded across, a lot of these blue collar jobs. And it's going to take more than deportations. It's going to take more than bringing plants back here. Yeah, that's a good start, but like you said, there's a lot of that connection between the community and the company or the plant there. I mean, that's got to happen. The surrounding areas, the technical colleges, that's going to happen for the next phase of this to actually see, that progress, to actually see manufacturing jobs benefit the American public, because you got to have that. You got to have that, or else you're just like I mentioned, you're just deporting workers, and we're not refilling them with American workers. So I mean, yeah, those are great points. I mean, you got to have that.
I mean, and I'll give you an example. There's a job. There are 5 different jobs. I work right now. I'm working in the railroad industry, but I'm looking to transition out of that. My background is logistics.
Mhm.
Right now, on Indeed, there are 5 jobs for a logistics manager positioned in Duluth, Georgia. I'm qualified for all of them. I have a 20 years in logistics. I got 10 of those years have been in management. All 5 of those jobs pay 6 figures, high 6 figures, but you can't get those jobs. Now, you, not I, not Mr. 411, none of us can get those. You know why? Because they said you have to be fluent in Mandarin or Chinese to get those jobs. Now, last I checked, we live in America. It's not a requirement for me to speak no other language than the national language in the United States, which is English. So that's actually illegal. That's discrimination. That's open discrimination, and it's posted on Indeed right now. If I was so inclined, I could go get a lawyer and sue that company because you can't do that in America.
Yeah, you make a good point, and I can speak to this
okay.
directly. Um, the hiring process. You think about the hiring process. You think about AI. I think the hiring process is just letting AI filter through resumes and find keywords. You know, um, Speaking to somebody who has 2 degrees, they're both in mathematics and education kind of combined. But you know, I consider myself. I don't. There's a lot of areas I think I could work in just because of my experience and my communication skills, and uh, but a lot of people don't take the time to kind of see through that stuff. They just want to search through the internet, search to use AI and search through algorithms on these job search apps and find candidates that way. If you're missing a certification, you don't have the years of experience, you're automatically not considered for the job. And I think that's a big problem as well. And that's probably talking, you're probably talking about some of the upper level jobs. But yeah, I think that's becoming a big problem as well. Like, you know, people stick to these qualifications for these jobs, and they can't wrap their mind around anything else. If you don't have these, you can't get that job. So I think that's a way of thinking that needs to shift as well. If you're gonna, maybe that can affect Americans getting some of these jobs.
Well, they had something that came out earlier this year. There's a big scandal going on in Silicon Valley with the Indians in tech. They found out recently. I want to say it was in March, and there's articles on this. So feel free to anybody feel free to Google what I'm saying. Anything I'm saying, Google it to see that I'm not just talking on my ass. But they're having a big scandal about the Indian workers, and they're falsifying their degrees because why? Their HR departments in these tech companies are not verifying their degrees and their experience that they're saying when they're coming over here, they're saying that they have. What they do is you got one or two that actually know what they're doing. And they're getting their cousins, they're getting their friends, then they're getting these influx of Indians, and they're basically falsifying documents over there. And they're coming. It's not relegated to just Indians. I'm not beating up on the Indians because they're also having the same scandal in Nigeria. They call them the diploma mills, where they're coming over here saying that they have all these credentials and all of these degrees and all of these certifications that they come to find these American companies do not have the ability in a lot of cases to verify what they're seeing on these resumes. Meanwhile, in their country, they have literal phone centers that answer the phone when these companies call back and say, did this person have, then when the HR department calls and said, did this person have these credentials? Does he have this type of degree? And they, yeah, we got, well, can you send us a copy of it? And they pay them and they charge them. They literally charge them $250. That's how much it costs for you to get a fake degree coming out of Nigeria or India.
Wow.
Companies don't. That's the extent of their verification process, and then they're getting over here and they don't know how to do these jobs. Well, most jobs in America have to train you anyway on how they want their particular job done. But when you're talking about tech, it's some of that is either you know it or you don't.
Sure.
And the reason
Yeah.
that this scandal came out is because they were literally relying on like 5 guys to do most of the work in Silicon Valley. 5 Indians. I bullshit you not. Were doing most of the work for them. They were out. They would, hey, I don't know how to get on fire. Hey, I don't know how to do this. Well, send me over there. And since a lot of that is done via computers, they can do it from anywhere. And
Yeah.
then the employee will pay them a segment, a portion of their salaries. This is how these people get that. And we can't act like we don't know this is going on. If
Yeah.
I know,
Well,
it's a lot of people that probably know this. And if your first time hearing about this, feel free to Google it. But
Yeah.
that's been a major problem. My wife works in the nursing field. One of the major complaints here in Georgia is that you have a population of Caribbean people that are working in the healthcare field that don't know how to do the job. My sister-in-law is a phlebotomist. She says she worked with 5 of them that don't know how to draw blood, but yet on paper they say they got a degree from whatever island that they came from. These are the people that are taking care of you, that are caring for you mostly, and a lot of them work in the work with the elderly people. They're working in the nursing homes. Look up nursing home abuse stories for the last 2 years. Just Google that in there. And once you start seeing the names, you say, "Oh, these people ain't even from here." Well, these are your grandparents. These are your people that you send into the nursing home, and they're getting cared for by people who don't know what they're doing, that are abusing these elderly people. These are aspects. Everything I'm touching on is aspects that are not talked about. You don't hear that. You're not going to hear this on CNN. You're not going to hear this on Fox News. You're not going to hear this on MSNBC. But they'll put these stories out, but people are not putting the dots together. And that kind of draws me to another point, is that we're not looking at the underground economy that comes out of illegal immigration. And then since we're talking about the Asian community, we're in basically a Cold War with China. And Trump just signed an agreement to bring what? I want to say 600,000 Chinese immigrants over the course of the next 10 years into the United States. And we've already seen reports that they got Chinese spies here in the United States that we know they're here, but we don't know where they're at. So you let a country that's hostile to the United States bring 600,000 more people into the United States on top of the ones that migrated here illegally over the last 4 years. Does that say that seems to me like a recipe for a disaster? That seems to me like a recipe for another 9/11.
Wow, I mean, what you think about that, man?
No, I mean, trust me, I'm privy. I read a lot of articles, just the nature of my business about, relations with relations with other countries, for sure, and how it affects. I'm looking at it from more of a defense aspect and defense manufacturing aspect. But yeah, I mean, I'd be worried about that specific demographic in this country for sure. Um, because again, they're run differently. They can. Uh, it's not a democracy over there. So yeah, I definitely get that aspect of it. And that's yeah. I'd be real, especially with the relations right now. They just. I think the Chinese president, North Korea, Putin all stood together with that military demonstration. I mean, that's scary stuff. I mean, especially when you get those three together, see those three together on stage. I mean, you know, it's definitely an emerging threat. We all know what Russia, we all know Russia's a threat, what they're doing to Ukraine. But China's there, always trying to provoke us, always testing the water as far as Taiwan goes, and we all obviously know North Korea's. Uh, they always testing ballistic missiles and stacking their nuclear arsenal. So I mean, those three in particular. But yeah, I would be worried too about um, you know Chinese immigration to this country with the state of our relations.
Is there a way for us to slow this down?
What are you doing? I mean, I have my issues with Trump. I have a lot of issues with Trump. But as we said, when we did these shows leading up to the election, I expressed a lot of them. But this is one issue that I actually agree with him on, wholeheartedly agree with him on, and unashamed about it, because I come, I see it. I see the problems. When we talking about when I was doing the research for this show, one thing I looked up was where are if our Asian community is primarily located in 3 cities, majority in 3 cities in Georgia, then where are they all employed at? Where is the majority of them employed with? And one of the things that come up when you do a Google search on that is that they're largely self-employed. Well, when you look at the Indian community, well, we can see where they're largely self-employed. You look at your gas stations, you look at your liquor stores. That accounts for that population of them that's not working in tech. When you look at the Asian community, I couldn't find a lot of information, but it led me to a Reddit question actually. And I know Reddit is not a credible website, but it was a legitimate question nonetheless. If you know Atlanta, you know Buford Highway. If you know Buford Highway, you know all up and down Buford Highway, they're massage parlors. A lot of them. And in every city that you have a large Asian population, what you also have is a large amount of massage parlors. And if you don't know, let me educate, anybody listening. Those massage parlors are fronts for prostitution and human trafficking. And they're largely owned in Georgia and all across the United States actually by Asians. And they're broad that what's happening is that it's an aspect of it that we're not looked at. It's not lost on me that you have large segments of Asian populations located near port cities, Long Beach, New York City, Savannah, Georgia, uh, Port Arthur, Texas, Galveston, Texas, You don't have an anchor community for these people, but they're large when they get off. Literally, when I get off the boat, they're setting up shops in Port City. Why is that? Who owns the boats? The boats are owned by Chinese companies, by Asian companies. I'm not going to relegate it to one country, but majority Chinese, but Asian companies for sure own the large shipping boats. Who's loading the containers? Those people in those Asian countries. What's in the containers? Because we don't have the ability to check every single shipping container. Now, in California, their ports are largely automated, so they have scanners and everything that they are able to scan a large portion of the freight that comes into the United States. But every single container on those ships that come in is not scanned, and you'd be surprised how many of those containers are holding human beings. That's how they're getting over here. They're not getting over. They're not coming in through Mexico. Some are, but when we talk about the Asian community outside of the Indian portion of the Asian community, they're bringing in a lot of illegal immigrants through those ports. That's why when you look at cities with large Asian populations, you have a large amount of human trafficking in those cities. In Georgia, in particular, Atlanta has become a human trafficking hub. Now, everybody likes to say, well, it's because of the airport. The airport has, if you've been through Hartsville International Airport, you know they got security out the yin yang. But the Port of Savannah, not so much. Not as much. And if you think that they're not bringing in human beings in container ships, let me tell you, buddy boy, they are. They are, and that's an aspect of it that people don't look. The average person ain't gonna think about that. That damn, they do bring. There is a lot of massage parlors where this Asian community is. Yeah, that's their underground economy. They have an organized underground economy. They had a big buzz. I don't know if y'all guys remember, but over the last 3 years, it was this massive influx of people stealing catalytic converters. They cutting out your catalytic converter from up under your car. Or they doing that because it's gold and platinum and all kind of minerals in those precious metals in those catalytic converters. They busted a ring of people that were doing it. They were bringing in upwards of $100 million a year. They busted them in New Jersey. They busted a bunch of Asian people. And New Jersey is one of the states like Georgia that has a high Asian population. They would steal them all across the country. The people were selling them for, they would give them, you would get $1,000 for a catalytic converter. And they would go all up to this big warehouse in New Jersey where they get them all together, melt them down, take out the precious mineral, and send them back to Asia. That's organized crime. That's that crime that you don't get. When we see the news, we looking at a lot of street level crimes, and me being the black person, we're made to be the face of criminality in America. But nobody talks about these criminals, these multi-million and billion-dollar criminal organizations that operate freely in the United States. When you talk about when you're looking at the fentanyl outbreak in the United States, it's not coming from Mexico. Well, it is, but it isn't. Mexico gets the precursors for the fentanyl all made in China. Shipped to Mexico because Mexico don't have the laws that we have in place with importing the chemicals to make fentanyl and meth. A lot of precursors to meth, they're going straight into Mexico. They get mixed in Mexico and brought across the border. These are international criminal organizations.
And how are you pulling this off without any help?
Well, the Mexican government don't care. The Mexican government is pretty much ran by the cartels. The cocaine is not the drug of choice in the United States anymore. It's crystal meth and fentanyl. So they've been forced to change their business practices. And they got a compliant government that's willing to import all these chemicals legally into their country to be mixed and brought up to here to feed the opioid addiction in America. Seems to me that America got the wrong face on criminality. This is what should be in the papers and all on the news every day. Because this affects all of us. Everybody has dope fiends in their family now. It's not just black folks anymore. Everybody. So it will stand to reason when you want to stop the root cause of that.
Oh, you still there, Tug?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Did I drop off?
No. You were just saying about the root cause of that, and
Yeah.
so like, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, and we're talking about the immigration, and just for me, I'm just like, okay, how is this being allowed to occur? You know what I'm saying? At this type of rate.
Brooks, you want to tackle that one?
I mean, I think a lot of it goes back to crime. Hot topics like crime are very much politicized in this day.
Hmm.
What stories you know do invoke emotion, outrage. I mean, that's what you know what people are drawn to, and that's what Trump. Trump's not a difficult person to figure out. If there's outrage or something, he's either producing it or he's going to be drawn to it, because that's going to get him political points. You think about the University of Georgia student who got murdered on a hike by an illegal immigrant. Um, the story now with the person getting killed, the Ukrainian person getting killed on the bus. The crime is very much politicized, and I think to that to Tony's point, I mean that makes a lot of it, a lot of the underground stuff go unnoticed. You
Mm.
know, um, that would be. I think that's a lot. That's a lot to do with it. We just and this goes again. This is a very complex issue, and you go back to the media now. A lot of the local media who maybe if you got the funding could investigate reporter and cover stuff like this. They're not, these local media outlets are dying. You just getting the big mainstream media outlets or the big city newspapers. So that's definitely part of it. If you had these local newspapers, these local news outlets with their investigative reporters, maybe they could uncover some of the stuff right here. So I think that, you know, the way we politicize media, the way the media is becoming more and more mainstream, more state, more national, there's the local media is dying. And I think that can explain, part of why a lot of this crime is going underreported, unnoticed. Um, so I think that's a big part of it.
And to your point, that story about the catalytic converters that came from a local media cracked that story out of New
Sure.
Jersey, and national media kind of picked up on it. Uh,
Yeah.
so to your point, I see that, but this is my problem. We have National Guard troops on the streets of DC. We got a president that's threatening to put National Guards in Chicago and all of these other black Democratic run cities.
Hmm.
I hear that. But in each one of those cities, their crime rate is at an all-time low. Not a
Yeah.
5-year low, not a 10-year low. Black crime in the black community as a whole has trended downwards every single year since the mid-90s. We're the only community, the black community, the only community that can say that their crime is trended downward as a whole year over year. No other community can say that. Now, at the same time, I can't put all of that at the feet of Donald Trump, because in 2022, 2021, President Biden led the whole nation in a Stop Asian Hate campaign and made black people the face of Asian hate, and took 3 isolated incidents in New York and California and made this a national cry to get an anti-Asian hate crime bill put in place. when black community, we don't even have contact in most areas with Asian communities. We don't stay in close proximity to them to commit crimes against them.
Right.
Look at the hate crime status in America. When you go by the FBI stats, who's harming Asians the most is other Asians. And then second is whites, because crime happens in proximity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those communities stay close enough to one another to commit crime to one another. When you look at California and you look at a lot of those snatch and grab videos that you've been seeing over the last couple of years, when the people run up in stores and ski masks,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
those are not black people committing those crimes. They're Hispanic and Asian. And you get to tell when they catch them, because a lot of times when they catch them, a lot of them have been Venezuelan immigrants in California or Asian gangs. And yes, there are Asian gangs, a lot of them. But
Yeah.
and this is my issue with both Democrats and Republicans. When they get a chance to make us the scapegoat for criminality, they always make us the scapegoat for it. But they don't look at crime in other communities. Asian crime is on the rise because they can get away with it, because nobody's looking at them.
Yeah.
That's why this issue kind of hits home with me. I don't
Yeah.
like it. I don't like it because I know what's going on. I
Yeah.
see, and people are being willfully ignorant. But when we can make, like Trump is doing now, I can make black community to face a crime. Well, up in DC, what they're doing, they're not even busting anybody. But what they are doing with the National Guard is they're picking up a lot of illegal aliens in Washington D.C. Then you use the black community as an excuse for you to use the National Guard and federal resources to go after illegal immigrants, because that's who they're mostly arresting. When they stop black people in DC, they're stopping them for minor trafficking infractions and marijuana charges, which marijuana is legal in this District of Columbia. So you're giving them tickets, but you're getting a lot of illegal aliens. A lot of them, not just Hispanics. You're getting African ones up there because they do have a large illegal alien community that's African. But just say that if that's your if Trump if that's your goal, if that's what you're doing, then say yeah, I brought the National Guard out to get these illegals out of this District of Columbia. Don't make us the face of it, because that leaves us open to retaliation from law enforcement, and that normalizes violence against the black community and puts a stigma on us that's unearned.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you have large criminal organizations that are comparable to the mob in its heyday, operating freely in major cities in the United States, and nobody saying anything about it. There are no RICO charges. We watched them put RICO charges on the record label here in the state of Georgia. But you have whole criminal organizations down there when they busted the 500 people in the Hyundai plant. Why wasn't the company that employed them? That whole leadership should have been arrested. Because part of illegal immigration that we have laws on the books for and have been on the books for the past 30 some odd years is that anybody that houses them or employs them is engaging in criminal activity. So if you're a company that employs a large illegal immigrant population, guess what? You're culpable in a crime, a federal crime. But they never go after the companies. They never go after CEOs. They never go after the HR reps that hire them.
Well,
Never do that. There are
yeah.
laws on the books now. There are laws on the books now that if you house them, that means landlords if you're a loan company that gave them a loan to buy a house, if you're an apartment complex that gave them a lease, if you rented a place to them, guess what? You're culpable in the crime federal crime that you can go to jail for. These laws, these are not laws that they have to create. These are laws that are currently on the books that are not being enforced. So
Yeah.
you don't have an illegal immigrant population without the corporations and the real estate industry being culpable in it. And the minute that they actually start to go after those who employ and house them, you ain't got no illegal immigration problem anymore, because they won't be able to eat, they won't be able to work, and they won't be able to have any place to stay. So they'll leave free. So I mean, Brooks, I hear you when you talk about it being a complicated. It's not. It's not as complicated as everybody's making it out to be. It's greed.
Yeah.
The corporations are getting their cheap slave labor. The federal government is displacing the population that they really don't like to deal with, be it the black population. So everybody's benefiting except us. We're the ones and that's the reason why I get passionate about this, is we're the ones that get the short end of the stick out there. Why? Because those low skilled jobs that everybody claims that the immigrants populate, those are the jobs that our teenagers used to do. The McDonald's jobs, the service industry jobs that they occupy, those are the jobs that our teenagers used to do, or our low skilled end of our population used to do, which kept them employed.
Mm.
But we're not even talking about, when you're talking about an auto plant, those are not low skilled jobs. Those are skilled labor positions that pay very well. And
Well,
you're
what was you about? I think Brooks about to say something in there.
um,
In between there.
No,
What was you?
just a couple of things like related to crime. Crime statistics. You know, you can you can interpret them, you can show them, but I mean, crime is very much, sentiments about crime are very much in the eye of the beholder, right? One of the guy who used to work for Doge, I think he called himself Big Boss, whatever. He got carjacked and beat up, and that next day, Trump said we're going to bring a National Guard in. So, and it's whether people feel safe or not. That's basically what crime. The sentiments about crime. There are going to be people who. Maybe don't even live in these places. They just saw a video and they don't think it's safe. I mean, crime is very much just personal sentiment about how they feel. Do they feel safe or not? And then it may not even come from living in the city. It may just come from them seeing something online, seeing a post, seeing a video. I mean, that's very much what Trump's taking advantage of, and Trump contributes to it as well when he manipulated the statistics for Washington D.C. a little bit. Um, Washington D.C. To get a little bit more into the Washington D.C. case, Washington D.C. is very much just inner city. It is no suburbs, and suburbs usually drive the crime rates down. So when you give crime rates for Washington D.C., just remember that no, they don't have any suburbs driving theirs down like Atlanta or most cities do. Um, so, and crime statistics can be manipulated. Um, and to the other point is, I very much agree with you. Uh, you know, we don't go after these, especially these big name companies, as far as the federal government. We just don't go after them and give them, meaningful consequences, especially legally. A lot of them end up entering to agreements where if they do this and this, no charges will be filed. I was watching a segment on that the other day. I forget what that agreement's called. But yeah, we don't penalize them to the extent of the law that we can. We enter in agreements. We slap them on the wrist with a fine that's probably not going to do anything to them, to their bottom line. But yeah, I agree with you. If you want, say for a company like Boeing, who's been on a lot of heat, but Google, if they get into any legal consequences from this, they've gotten fined, they've having to do this, that. Um, but are there any legal consequences? Are people getting fired? I mean, that's not happening. And again, this goes back to this capitalism. These we need these companies. These companies provide a lot of money a lot of jobs to America, and we're just not gonna, I don't think the federal government has the spine to just prosecute them to the extent of the law like that. We're in the age of these big corporations. Maybe they're legal, maybe they're not. Um, so I agree with you. If we're gonna, and this again ties it back to illegal immigration. Are we going to give these companies who employ illegal aliens, are you going to prosecute them to the extent of the law or not? I'd say in most cases we're not. We're going to slap them on the wrist, enter in some agreement, conditional to the no, no charges being filed, and then we'll move on. And that's not going to affect, that's not going to change a company's behavior. That's just not.
I mean, when I look at it, I understand America has an aging population. It does, but you're not solving that issue by bringing in we have. If you want to bring in immigrants into the United States, cool. I'm all for that, as long as they come legally. Because when they're legally brought in, they have conditions. You have to pay them straight. That means that does not suppress wages.
Right.
In That's why that's a huge reason why the wages have remained stagnant over the last 30 years. Why minimum wage has not risen since the 1990s is because you have illegal immigration. Because I don't have to pay you more as a minimum wage. You're gonna take this job, I'm gonna give it to this person who I don't even have to pay minimum wage to.
Correct.
That's pseudo slavery right there. And those by no means am I comparing illegal immigration to slavery at all, because nothing compares to slavery. So that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that you bringing in a population that's willing to do the low end scale jobs, and a lot of times the skilled labor jobs, for cheaper prices than an American worker would do them for. You're hurting American citizens. You're not just hurting black people. You're mainly hurting black people, but you're not just hurting us. You're hurting everybody that's legally here. So I'm not a fan of illegal immigration in any form. I don't care if it's Hispanic, Asian, or black. If you followed us on this channel or the TikTok channel, I've expressed how I feel about that, and including the black illegal immigrants. Illegal immigration as a whole hurts us, and we're just not saying, people are not saying anything. Now, one of the ways you can solve it is to prosecute. Hey, you have laws that are currently on the books. You don't need to make any new laws. You use the ones that you have. I think it's a 5 to 10 year sentence for employing illegal immigrants, depending on how many. Well, I think the Hyundai plant qualifies with 500. And I'm curious to see what kind of fines the federal government is going to levy on that company for employing them, if any. Because a part of the problem is when they, on the off occasions that they do go after employers, and they have I give Trump his credit. He's done it a couple of times this year. So I give credit what credit is due. He's done it more than the Biden administration did, by far. But on the few occasions that he has gone after the employers, the fines are minuscule. You're talking about companies that generate hundreds of millions of dollars a year, sometimes billions of dollars a year, and their fine is $2 million. That's not hurting their bottom line. They okay, pay the fine. We'll do it again in about 6 months. Start increasing the fines for the company. Start prosecuting who hired them. I mean, all the way down to the HR rep. 5 years minimum. The landlord is 5 years minimum. I guarantee this will clear up that problem immediately, because nobody want to go to jail, especially a person that's not accustomed to jail.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, is there any kind of other financial perks for the immigrants as well, or is that only if they come across legally,
No.
or the illegal ones getting some financial too?
So over the span of the Biden administration, cities like Chicago, like New York, California, Colorado were incentivizing illegal immigration. They were getting food stamps, housing vouchers. The housing vouchers in the state of New York was giving them $7,000 a month housing vouchers, and an additional $2,000 in SNAP assistance. That's food stamps. And all the while the hotel they were living in hotels that the state and the federal government were paying for. Same in Chicago, same in Colorado. You incentivized this over the past 4 years under the Biden administration. So I'm not gonna put all of this at the feet of Trump. I would give Obama, and I'm critical of Obama as well. I'm critical of all politicians, no matter the party. But I was critical of Obama, but I will give him credit. He deported more illegals than any other administration up until the Trump administration. It's yet to be seen if they're really serious about fixing the illegal immigration problem. But they are off to a decent start. The sanctuary city status, I don't agree with that at all. Where the states can usurp the federal government and outright refuse to assist the federal government, you're walking yourself into a constitutional crisis, is what you're doing. And potentially, on the long term, if it continues down the track that it's going, potentially another civil war, when you have states that can say, "I'm not going to do what the federal government say."
Yeah. Well, Brooks, what do you feel about as far as some actions that needs to take place to reduce immigration?
I mean, I think Trump's pretty much reduced it as far as the crossings. It's just a matter of what he wants to do with the people who are still here illegally, right? Um, does he like? I don't think anybody's going to disagree with targeting, illegals that are here and have committed crimes. That is a good focus to start with, right? You should be getting those people out. I think everybody, both parties, should agree that they want these people out, right? No illegals who's committed crimes, should be out of here. What do you do with the rest who have kind of ingrained in the society and who are, by all intents and purposes, are contributing and doing right? I mean, again, maybe to the detriment of the American worker, of course. That's a different question. Uh, how you target them when you deport them is an interesting kind of moral question. Where do you target them at? I mean, do you go, there's, you have instances where they're targeting Home Depots where they like to gather and get day labor. I mean, is that morally right? There's a lot of there's a lot of sides to this. Do you consider granting at some point, do you stop and just say, everybody give a pathway to citizenship to everybody who's here illegally already, and know that you've restricted the borders and controlled that flow enough to where you're comfortable doing that? That could be an option as well. I, some of the ways, I, some of the things, some of Trump's kind of goals and what he stands for, I do agree with, but a lot of his methods I don't. Um, you know, I think uh, I think there should be a line. There's just seems like a line that you cross sometimes when he's going after these illegals in the way he does. And I think it's very much susceptible. The way they go after them is very much susceptible to racism. When there's a lot of instances where you see people being wrongfully, arrested because just the way they look. Um, you know, um, so that's a very much. I think. Um, I think he has, like I said, I think he has the border under control. It's just a matter of what's he do. What does he do with the people that the population of illegals that remain here? Um,
Send them back to the countries of origin. The problem in a lot of cases is their country that they came from, that they migrated from, don't want them back. So that lets you know the caliber of people that they sent up here. We saw this. This is not a new play that these countries pulled. When Biden opened the borders up, said everybody come. They did exactly what Cuba did in the 80s when they sent over there, when they emptied out their mental asylums and their prisons and sent them all over here. That's exactly what we saw with the Venezuelans. They said, we're not taking our people back. The Hondurans said, we're not taking our people back. These are your people. You don't want them. And to his credit, like I say, I give credit what credit is due. Trump offered them $1,000 and a free ticket to anywhere in the world that they want. If they chose to deport themselves willingly, they didn't. A lot of them took. Some of them took it. Most of them didn't. So now, if your country of origin don't want you back, and we don't have anywhere to send you, that's not our problem. You leave it up to me. I'll drop you at the closest border and say, make it how you make it. You got over here without no help. Get back where you going without no help. But that's telling that there a lot of these countries that they're coming from are playing political games with this. So if they drop them off at Guantanamo Bay, if they drop them off in a lot of the African countries said that they'll take them. That's between you and your government after that, because we offered you a chance to get your people back. And so in a couple cases, they were putting them on chartering major airlines to take them back to their countries of origin, and then getting turned around as soon as the plane landed. Nah, we don't want them back. Well, you can't then cry foul when we take them somewhere else, because that's not our responsibility. You broke the law. If I, as an American citizen, especially a black person, break the law, guess what? There are consequences. I go to jail. But we're supposed to bend over back. Well, that's not right to take to put them to imprison. That all they wanted was a better life. Most criminals say that. Most criminals break the law because they're looking for an economic opportunity to do better. That does not negate the law that they broke. They're still subject to the laws and stipulations and consequences of this country. Me as a black person, that we accept that. You do criminal shit. Most criminals understand if I do criminal shit to get caught, I'm going to jail. These people are allowed to break the law, and then everybody, and it's like a segment of the population makes excuses for them breaking the law. No, if we're gonna take a hard line with American crime, we're gonna take a hard line with crime in general. If we're gonna put National Guard troops on the streets of DC to stop crime, where illegal immigration is a crime. So those same standards that you apply to criminality here should apply to those criminals that come from other places. Because what we're not going to do is have a two-tier justice system in the United States. That's not what we're finna have. The law is the law. The law applies to everybody. If I break the law, there are consequences that come with it. And you got to suffer those consequences. Sorry that your country sucks. Go back home and make it better. Because they come here and tell us, oh, we came here with $2 in a dream and we look at what we achieved. Okay, cool. You came here legally. You got $2 in a dream. You were able to accomplish something. Take those skills you learned here and go back home and build it up. Build where you came from. Make where you came from better. So you don't have to illegally migrate to other countries. Do that.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean that's well stated by the both of you. Anything else before we put a pretty bow on this?
I'll just say I would be more willing to take that stance if I didn't know that our process, our asylum process, our process um, of legal immigration isn't was was flawless, and I don't think it is. I think it's very convoluted. I think it takes a very long time, um, and so that's why I'm not. That's why I'm hesitant to just say deport them all, because I know that our process to legal immigration is not perfect, and it has a lot of flaws. And then I think that's something that Congress is just yet to tackle. You know, they talk all about closing the borders and prioritizing this, but they have yet to pass, to work on the actual process to come here and streamlining that process. And I think that's a big failure of Congress, is not making that process better, to where I could be like, yeah, because you did cross here illegally, you should be deported. but again, I'm just hesitant because I don't think the process to come here legally is I wouldn't even. I mean, I don't think it's close to perfect. I think it's broken. Um, and I think I mean, par- well, part of why there's a lot of illegal immigration is because legal immigration is a really hard process. So I think it's a. Uh, I mean, not saying anything fucking extraordinary that Congress hasn't gotten shit done, but yeah, you want to tackle another side of this is to fix the process of legal immigration, to fix the asylum process.
On that, I can agree with you, but those two things are not combined. You can do both. You can deport them and fix the process at the same time,
Sure.
and some affects the other. But
Yeah.
I just I find it comical that you look at most of the countries that people are migrating from. Look at the top three and look at their immigration process. We can't go into their country and set up shops and set up businesses and start working without.
Sure. Right.
They
No, you're
Absolutely.
right, man. Yeah, you're
out of their
right,
country
man.
less than 3 months. That you might be lucky to get a 90-day visa. Overstay that visa if you want to. They come and find you. The United
Yeah.
Yeah.
States. And that's how most of the illegals come into the country, not through the border, but they come through by overstaying their visas.
Right.
So it's just a comedy. It's comical. It's laughable that those same countries that they came from would kick us out immediately. They
Yeah.
would come find us and deport us ASAP. So if it works for them and their countries of origin, it should work for us the same way. If you want their best and brightest, we have a process that process for H-1 visa, the education visas for the genius person, those genius student visas, those work incredibly well.
Yeah, sure.
But to say it's the asylum part because most of them
Hmm.
come in, when they get caught, they say I'm an asylum seeker. Well, asylum from what? Because there are no civil wars going on in the Western Hemisphere when you're looking at the with the Hispanic population across all Latin American countries. It's
Yeah.
economic. They're saying we're economic refugee. Well, that's not that's never been grounds for asylum. And I don't know why the Biden administration. Well, I do know why the Biden administration entertained it because they were looking for a new voter bloc to replace Black Americans because we're demanding tangibles for our votes now. So instead of giving that to us, they said, well, we'll just replace you. The Democratic Party as a whole said, we'll just replace you with illegal immigrants. That was the long-term goal was to, and if I do believe if Kamala Harris was elected, that was going to be the end goal. Naturalize these 4 million illegals that came across over the last 4 years. Now we have a new voter bloc. That is all politics and money. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. But yes, but hey, fellas, that's what we talked about. We said we wanted to get tackle this subject tonight, and we did. And man, there's a lot that's come from it. I'm gonna actually come back, sit back, and listen to this again because there's a lot of information that needs to be unpacked. I think we can even layer off, take another branch off of some of this too, because especially like with the catalytic converters, man, just looking at how some of this has been done and the amount of money involved with that. They're saying like each one was worth like 1,000, like each
That
ounce.
that was the
That's
street. They turned it.
in
It
the
was
streets.
for anybody that's looking for that. I was sending that article. I was sending the articles and the news reports on it to you, Mr. 411. You can post it as a short.
Yes, sir. Cause that, I mean, wow. But yeah, so that, I mean, it all ties into that. And so, man, fellas, I appreciate y'all being on, man. And we did it again. And again, we're gonna jump on a whole nother subject as well. Make sure you guys we huddle up again in our next production meeting so we can come out with our next topic of choice. And we can do it again in a couple days.
All right.
All
Hopefully
right.
we can break this
Oh, go
time.
ahead.
Bring something to it. He was headed to somewhere, and I wanted to see where he was going with it.
Yeah, yeah. Antoine, he did message me. He said he will be back. He wants to join in. and chime in when we're doing these type of topics. So he definitely is going to do that. Also, Brooks, we do our college football, so you'll see Brooks and hear from him again on our college football review. And sooner than later, we got that Georgia Bulldog show coming up too. And Hot Tub Tony is a Bulldog fan,
Oh,
Brooks.
dogs.
Go Dogs.
So there you have it. All right. So for Brooks and the original Hot Tub Tony, I'm Mr. 411. We'll catch you all later. Have a good evening.
Peace.